Hello everyone, thank you for joining. In this edition of Talk Piksa, we'll look at the unpleasant situation at the University of Technology in Lae that has apparently disrupted learning for hundreds of students. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill appealed to the students to return to lectures and allowed the inquiry headed by retired Judge Mark Sevua to get to the bottom of the Unitech problems. A report on that and also the same on a project, a small isolated beginning that promises big results to the ever-increasing calls for tougher laws against criminals. And later in the show, a refreshing sight in all else that is bad in Port Moresby. The current saga at the University of Technology in Lae is unprecedented. The allegations of infighting between the University Council and administration and the aftermath have led to disruption of the first semester. Some of the events which have unfolded may be unique to Unitech. Others may be the rupture in a groundswell of problems perhaps faced by many of the universities. We will get to Unitech a little later. Let's first of all look at our universities. Papua New Guinea has 6. The public universities are UPNG at Waigani, Unitech in Lae, the University of Goroka in Goroka, the University of Natural Resources and Environment in East New Britain, the Pacific Advantage University outside Port Moresby, that's private, and the Divine Word University in Madang, that's public, but run by the Catholic Church. As it were, universities are powerful educational institutions established by Acts of Parliament. The university councils wield a lot of power in the running of these institutions. Government, or in this case the Minister for Higher Education, has no controlling powers other than moral or ceremonial inputs. Governments nevertheless respect the universities as important for the country. Obviously, that's where the thinkers, the doctors, the technocrats, the scientists, the list goes on, are primed for the total development outlook for the country. That importance has been demonstrated by the personal visit to the Unitech campus by Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to try and resolve the conflict. He urged the students to return to lectures and allow the Commission of Inquiry, which has been set up, to get to the bottom of the problems. Divine Word and Pacific Advantage are without a doubt the best-run institutions in the country. They have, year in, year out, answered the government's call to turn out educated Papua New Guineans in all facets. The other public universities, UPNG and Unitech in particular, were the dream of all students aspiring to excel. That attraction, however, is no longer there. Due to a number of reasons, the two institutions have not been perceived as producing the best. The government's Vision 2050, the Development Strategic Plan, the Medium-Term Development Plan, did not get the corresponding manpower as required from these universities to drive their plans forward. In one attempt to correct this, the governments of Australia and Papua New Guinea agreed to review our university systems. In 2009, an independent review was commissioned. It was conducted by former Prime Minister Serabe Namalio and Professor Ross Garau. The review found that the Papua New Guinea university systems face significant challenges, and it recommended a broad agenda of reforms to improve over the next 10 years. It specified about 9 areas of improvement. The top 3 were funding mechanisms, institutional performance quality, and institutional governance. These are pertinent to the Unitech case today. What happened towards the end of last year between the Vice-Chancellor and the University Council and the eventual boycott of lectures by students have a lot of relevant details. But what can be said is this. The Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Albert Schramm, initially came on staff at Unitec as the Dean of Faculty, and later it was the University Council that had a hand in his elevation to the position of Vice-Chancellor of Unitec.
That the appointment of the Vice-Chancellor went through the due process.
So what went wrong for the Council to do a U-turn 3 months later? Did Dr. Schramm do something wrong, or did he do something right that hurt some members of the Council? The details are many, but here is a quick chronology. Upon taking office, Dr. Schramm wanted to set some control. He wanted to reduce the University Council numbers from about 30 down to 16. The Council then worked to remove him. Unitec Chancellor Dr. Philip Stagg announced that Dr. Schramm would be removed. Students seeking an explanation burnt Dr. Stagg's car on campus. Ralph Saulep then questioned Dr. Schramm's qualifications. Dr. Schramm was then terminated and a number of legal proceedings then ensued. Towards the end of last year, an interim council was appointed. It then reappointed Dr. Schramm as VC and Sir Nagora Bogan as the Unitec's interim chancellor. In January, the Prime Minister announced an inquiry to be headed by retired Judge Mark Sevoa. Dr. Schramm and the council were suspended for 2 months pending the investigations. Dr. Schramm, who by then went overseas, was refused entry into the country over work permit. Students then petitioned the government for Dr. Schramm's return.
We want Albert Schramm to be our Vice-Chancellor of University of Technology.
He was allowed to return, but not as VC. In March, Dr. Schramm was then deported for the second time, and the students boycotted classes. There are a number of details in between. But let's go back to one of the points of the review into the universities by Sir Rabi and Professor Garau. In particular on institutional governance. It called for council members, some numbering 25 to 28 at universities, to be reduced to 15 or even less. UOG complied, so did VUDAL. The University Council members of DWU and PAU have always been consistent with international practices, so their numbers were right. But UPNG and Unitec had not complied. Unitec had 28 plus members on the council. Dr. Schramm moved to cut down on the numbers. It is important then to pause and look at how members of the university councils get in. Some are appointed on merit, some represent groups, some are suggested. So in the end, they all represent something or somebody. Could they then act contrary to the fundamental interests of universities? If we were to draw any similarities, here is an Australian judge's comment in a case over the New South Wales fires. The case was between the Barnetts, the aggrieved, and the Board of Fires Commissioners of New South Wales. The judgment was made in respect to the board members. His Honour, Mr. Justice Street said, board members are nominated or chosen by various groups who have an interest. Each of the persons on the board owes his membership to the particular interest group. But the member will be doing injustice in his duty if he uses his membership to promote the interest of the group. Let's hope this is not the case at Unitec. However strong their arguments may be, a Chinese proverb may be appropriate here. Fish starts to rot from the head. Whatever the outcome of the inquiry, the sad reality is that the first semester for Unitec is gone. It would seem right to declare the first semester incomplete, send everybody home, do some maintenance, and some serious critique. Time to take this premier learning institution back to its better days with a completely new governing council and an administration. Unitec needs fresh air and professionals for the right outcomes. The last thing we need is for government to intervene and legislate to take control. It can happen. Something refreshing next. That's after the break. Talk Piksa. The increase in crime in urban centers around the country has caused a surge of protests for tougher laws and penalties. All the outcries have been about incarcerating criminals, but little about rehabilitation. In this next report by Daily Bagu, an inspirational project of hope that gives a sense of purpose and future for former inmates. It's the Koitaki farm outside Port Moresby that concentrates on livestock.
Tucked away in the mountain ranges of Sogeri, an hour's drive outside of Port Moresby is the Murray Estate Koitaki farm, producers of Koitaki beef. The serenity here can make anyone forget the recent issues of law and order in the main towns and cities. But the owners of the Murray Estate, Lord Peter Murray and Lady Beverly Murray, have begun a program for prisoners serving in the minimum security unit. Some 5,000 odd cattle graze on Koitaki's luscious paddocks, and most of the orders for beef come from Moresby's retail giants, Garamut Enterprises and Rimbunan Hijau. The program will equip the trainees with lifelong agricultural skills and knowledge which they can use after they serve their time. The agricultural training program is fairly new, and Lord Murray has a direct hand in it. He was born in East New Britain, and both he and wife Beverly are on the board of the University of Natural Resources and Environment in Woodall, East New Britain.
The program is to take people who are incarcerated at Bomana and bring them to Koitaki for training in agriculture and also for getting them a qualification when they're released so they can seek work within the agricultural industries.
Currently, there are 2 trainees, John Kule and Gorua Muri. John makes the trip down from his MSU cell 5 days a week with his correctional services officer and returns in the evening.
So it's like first time for me to do the courses, and I enjoy the courses because it's very new to me. The challenges I went with the course, it's like cow drenching and all this, because cow drenching is different from stocks. It's like you have to get the cows from another paddock and to get them to another paddock, and that's what stocksmen do. But to cow drenching, you have to check every cow's steers and heifers and all this. So you have to know their names and the weights of them.
It turns out that John has had prior experience with horses.
You must have a horse. Same car. So as soon as you fix him car, you don't have to drive nothing. You must have no good car, so you must ride him. You must come up driver. So same also the horse.
Gorua is the other trainee. He now lives on the farm after being let out on bail. He has also had some prior experience with cattle, having worked on a farm before.
Sample something no sabe lining me. Na mi ken kalaplo horse, mi ken castrating yampla wina. Mi ken toki 1 effa, 1 steer, 1 coal cow, 1 Brahman. Mi ken toki. 1 cow and kupla ba yuko close to na 1 no good. You no can go close to all this something. At least me go in up mi sabe lo fencing na grass where aulo you sit in this like whole head of cow, but you transfer him like go another paddock. Because time you lose him cow, stop long time, one paddock, grass all get up by senisi go low ground. So at least grass is tapiat, now you must move him cattle. Cattle you go paddock.
John and Gorua aren't the only trainees on the farm. The Murrays are planning on expanding the program to cater for up to 15 trainees from the MSU and combining training with the students from the University of Natural Resources and Environment in their future programs. So what does Koitaki Farm get out of running such a program? Well, Lord Murray says they've had positive feedback from the trainees, and it's a good feeling knowing they've had a significant impact in the lives of the trainees.
The trainees have been very positive. They've enjoyed it. They're very keen. It's a break away from their duties at Bomana, and they're able to apply their thinking to what they're doing here, which means that they can apply any educational background qualities that they had prior to being in Bomana. And the second thing is, of course, they're looking towards getting a certificate in agriculture whilst they're here.
As for Lady Murray, she's working on a cookbook that will feature proteins. She's already written 3 bestseller books in Australia. This 4th book will be co-authored by her local KitchenAid, Cabo Awea.
I have a new cookbook coming out, and basically it'll be about using local produce from the markets having a protein base, because there's a lot of people that have come up here and they go to the markets and they look at the produce and they're not quite sure how to use it. But it will also be for nationals as well, to show them how to get the benefit out of cheaper meat and the goodness from that. I'm also going to put little stories in there as well, so it won't be only just a cookbook, but it will also have a little bit of folklore in it and a little bit of the history of up in Sageri and a little bit of history of our property up here. But I'm going to do it with one of our national girls who had a job here housekeeping, and then she graduated to cooking, and she has become such a good cook that if she ever left here, which I hope she never does, she could be taken on by a big hotel chain or a restaurant. She is so good.
That's a KPL number 8.
The Koitaki farm has a wealth of potential associated with its cattle. It is in the process of developing a unique cattle breed called the Papuan Grey. The making of this breed is expected to be finished by 2014. The Koitaki farm is also rich with history. The main house used to be an aid post in World War II, and the surrounding land used to be a rubber plantation. The Murrays hope that the trainings at the Koitaki farm will have some significance towards the future of agriculture in Papua New Guinea.
You're back to Talk Piksa. Port Moresby, the capital of Papua New Guinea, has its strong and weak points. Unfortunately, the undesirables, such as crime, corruption, eviction, and potholes, dominate headlines. But there are also strong positive points. Parliament, the marina, the museum, the artifacts market, and even Ella Beach, if it could be kept clean. Adventure Park along Sogere Highway as well. But there is one other, the refreshing Nature Park. Meredith Kusa reports.
Nature Park is located within the University of Papua New Guinea campus, formerly the Botanical Gardens. Originally founded by botanist Andre Miller in the 1970s, it was a place where university students took time to study in tranquil surrounds. But over the years, the gardens were neglected due to poor management. In June last year, a new management was brought in.
That we have the facilities and the capabilities of being able to have world-class facilities here. A lot of people don't think that we can, but we can do that.
9 months down the track, the nature park has a brand new and refreshing look. The park is the country's first combined botanical and zoological gardens dedicated to the promotion of PNG's unique natural environment. Animals from snakes to peacocks, cuscus, wallabies and hornbills are found on site. Built to world-class standard is this above-ground walkway funded through the support of PNG Sustainable Development. Below it you have the different species of cassowary. The southern cross cassowary is the largest and most well-known of the 3 species found in both Papua New Guinea lowland rainforest and less commonly North Queensland in Australia. Also found within close proximity is the sleepy python. Ideally located within the University of Papua New Guinea premises, the Nature Park is an avenue for scientific research. Hundreds of drugs used in modern-day medicine, either directly or indirectly, come from the rainforests. The Nature Park has also introduced an education program. Schools are invited to have interactive wildlife lessons. These kids from Korobosia International School got friendly with some of the animals that are kept here. What did you like the most?
The animals.
They were taken around by specially trained staff.
Okay, we are promoting outdoor education program here, and we encourage schools to bring their classes here. We are promoting conservation for plants and animals here. So.
Observing the outdoor education program was NCD Education Schools Coordinator Maino Koloa. Impressed by what he saw, he said all schools in NCD should make it their business to take students to the park.
The Board of Management for the respective schools to work closely with the school administration, the teachers there, and do the budget for them. They can come out. There's no law against that.
The park is all about sustainability. A successful breeding program for native animals is also being carried out. The nature park is family-oriented and can cater for picnics or even a wedding. There are benches all over so you can relax while you take in the sights. More additions are currently being added to the park, including a cafe. The Port Moresby Nature Park is open 8 to 4 p.m. 7 days a week.
Nature Park, the transformation of what used to be the botanical gardens of the University of Papua New Guinea, and that Andre Miller at that time, Meredith Kusa with that report, and ending Talk Piksa. We'll do it again at the same time today week. Thank you for watching.